Welcome to African Today, the voice of a changing continent. We bring you the stories shaping Africa's present and future, from breaking news and bold analysis to culture, innovation, and voices on the ground. We're here to inform, inspire, and amplify the heartbeat of Africa every single day. Thank you for stopping by the channel. We hope you enjoy our video. Let's begin. As the specter of a regional war looms large in the Middle East, with rising tensions between Iran and Israel reaching dangerous levels, voices from across the globe are weighing in on the potential consequences of such a conflict. Among them is Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the young and charismatic leader of Burkina Faso, whose revolutionary spirit and unapologetic anti-imperialist stance have captured the imagination of millions across Africa and beyond. While Traoré has not made any extensive public comments directly linking himself to the Iran-Israel war as of this writing, his overall worldview, political ideology, and opposition to Western neo-colonialism provide a strong foundation for interpreting how he might perceive and respond to such a conflict. This article aims to explore how Ibrahim Traoré, Africa's youngest and arguably most defiant head of state, might view the unfolding Iran-Israel crisis, its implications for Africa, and what it reveals about the global order. A revolutionary lens, anti-imperialism first. At the core of Captain Ibrahim Traoré's political ideology is a staunch rejection of imperialism in all its forms. Since seizing power in 2022, Traoré has made it clear that Burkina Faso will no longer serve as a pawn in the West's geopolitical games. His government expelled French military forces, cut off ties with former colonial powers, and turned instead to alternative global powers like Russia, China, and other non-Western alliances. In this context, Traoré would likely view the Iran-Israel war through the prism of global power dynamics, another extension of Western imperialism playing out in the Middle East, where proxy wars, regime change operations, and resource domination have been a recurring theme for decades. He might argue that both African and Middle Eastern nations have long been subjected to external manipulations, invasions, and sanctions not because of human rights concerns, but because of their strategic importance and natural wealth. Iran, though far from a perfect state, has positioned itself as a defiant force against Western hegemony, much like Traoré himself. While Traoré may not necessarily align with Iran's domestic policies or theocratic system, he could respect its refusal to be subjugated by Western demands, sanctions, and military threats. Israel, on the other hand, heavily backed by the United States and NATO allies, may be seen by Traoré as a key pillar of the Western imperial order in the region. The hypocrisy of the global powers. Captain Traoré has repeatedly exposed what he sees as the hypocrisy of the West, championing democracy while supporting dictators, preaching human rights while funding wars, and imposing sanctions that cripple entire populations while turning a blind eye to genocide and occupation. In the case of the Iran-Israel conflict, Traoré would likely criticize the double standards. Why is Iran labeled a threat while Israel's nuclear arsenal goes unchallenged? Why are Palestinian lives treated as expendable while the world rushes to protect Israeli borders? Why are sanctions weaponized only against those who challenge the Western agenda? For Traoré, this war is not just about two nations locked in conflict. It represents the broader battle between those who want to retain global dominance and those rising to demand sovereignty, dignity, and justice. Just as Burkina Faso and other Sahel nations are demanding the right to self-determination without foreign interference, he might argue that Middle Eastern nations deserve the same. African unity and the risks of a global war. The Iran-Israel war poses grave risks for Africa. From economic disruptions, oil price hikes, refugee crises, and potential involvement in proxy conflicts, the continent, already facing food insecurity and political instability, cannot afford another global war. Ibrahim Traoré, a proponent of African unity and Pan-Africanism, may warn that this war is a distraction and a trap. He might urge African nations to remain neutral, focus on regional solidarity, and avoid being drawn into conflicts that do not serve their people's interests. Historically, African countries have often been dragged into the orbit of global superpower rivalries, Whether through military bases, intelligence operations, or resource exploitation, Africa has paid the price for being a battleground in someone else's war. Traoré would likely caution his fellow African leaders, do not allow Africa to become a pawn once again. A call for multipolarity and global justice. The Iran-Israel conflict underscores the need for a new global order, one that moves away from unipolar dominance and toward genuine multipolar cooperation. Traoré has long supported this idea. His alliances with Russia, Turkey, and China reflect a broader desire to break free from the stranglehold of Western-controlled institutions like the IMF, World Bank, and NATO. In his eyes, the Iran-Israel war is just another expression of the broken global system where might makes right, where certain lives matter more than others, and where justice is often denied to those who dare to resist. He would likely advocate for a ceasefire, a diplomatic solution, and respect for the sovereignty of all nations involved. But more importantly, he would call for the transformation of the international system itself, one where African voices are respected, where colonized peoples reclaim their dignity, and where power is not held hostage by a few elite nations with nuclear arsenals and economic leverage. Conclusion: the voice of a new Africa. Captain Ibrahim Traoré represents a new generation of African leaders unafraid to speak truth to power. In the face of the Iran-Israel conflict, his likely message would be one of caution, resistance to imperial manipulation, and solidarity with oppressed peoples worldwide. He would remind the world that Africa has suffered enough from wars it didn't start, and that it is time for Africans to determine their own destiny, not as servants of empire, but as architects of a new, just, and balanced world. As bombs fall in the Middle East and war drums beat louder, the world would do well to listen, not just to the superpowers, but to leaders like Traoré, who dare to dream of a future free from domination, built on unity, justice, and peace. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe to help grow the channel. Until next time, see you soon.